No one looked twice when he passed, just another man in a faded uniform, pushing a mop bucket, earbuds in, eyes low. He moved through the nation's most secure intelligence facility like wallpaper, always there, always silent, always ignored. But beneath that dull exterior, Marcus Vale, age 38, wasn't cleaning floors. He was watching. He was calculating. He was remembering the training that made him a shadow and the mission that brought him back from retirement. Because the janitor was once Commander Marcus Vale, a special ops strategist who vanished after a covert op went wrong in Beirut, officially presumed dead. Unofficially, very much alive. His cover? Perfect. No access badge, no weapon, no desk. Just an old cart in a thick accent he didn't really have. Even most of the junior officers thought he was outsourced cleaning staff, and that's exactly what he wanted. At 7:00 a.m. sharp, as the briefing room filled with tension, Colonel Briggs addressed the task force. "We've confirmed a breach. Level 5 clearance was accessed without authorization. Internal threat, high risk. Doors locked, phones collected, paranoia suffocating the air." Just as the final protocols were being discussed, Marcus entered with his mop, gliding between desks without saying a word. Nobody flinched. Nobody stopped him. He wasn't even there in their eyes. But he noticed everything. The flicker in Agent Hall's expression when classified footage appeared on screen. The USB drive carelessly left beside a coffee cup. The code written upside down on a notepad, one he had personally decommissioned years ago. Marcus didn't need to guess. He knew. This was a setup. Someone inside was about to burn the entire operation and frame someone else for it. Maybe someone like the ghost they thought they buried. Later that night, as the facility entered lockdown mode following an anomaly in the surveillance network, Marcus slipped away. He didn't run. He vanished. Through a duct only he remembered. To a vault only he could override. With a badge no one knew existed. By the time emergency protocols kicked in, Marcus was already at the data core, watching Agent Hall's hidden program trying to erase the backup servers. "Too slow," Marcus muttered. He plugged in a drive, custom encrypted, military grade. And just like that, the operation flipped. The lights flickered across the control room. Red emergency strobes cast jagged silhouettes on the walls. But Marcus Vale was calm. Calm like only a man who had died before could be. He typed commands with precision, bypassing 7 firewalls in under 30 seconds. The system still thought he was dead, and that, ironically, was what saved them all. Back in the main facility, chaos reigned. Colonel Briggs barked orders as agents scrambled. Files were disappearing, surveillance feeds were glitching. Someone, or something, was erasing everything. But Marcus had already found it. "Hall's been in the system for weeks," he whispered into his encrypted comms device, one the agency didn't even know existed. And he's not alone. From a hidden terminal, he streamed the feed to a secure server offshore, one he'd built during his disappearance. Insurance. On screen, Agent Hall in the East Corridor, dressed casually, laughing with a technician, but the timestamp didn't lie. He was there the moment the breach occurred. Marcus pulled up the audio logs. Click. Hall's voice. "Once this goes live, they'll never trace it. They'll think it was Briggs. He's old school, doesn't even encrypt half his messages." So that was the plan. Frame the colonel, collapse the chain of command, sell the access codes to the highest bidder. Simple, efficient, treason. But they hadn't accounted for the ghost in the system. Marcus. Flashback. 8 years ago, a dusty airfield, Beirut. Explosions in the distance. Blood on Marcus's hands. His own team betrayed. A mole inside had fed them false intel. They walked into a trap, and Marcus had barely made it out. He faked his death that night, burned his IDs, vanished. But not before memorizing every voice, every signal, every encryption key used in that ambush. One of those voices, Agent Hall, and now fate had looped the story back around. Back in the present, Marcus watched as Hall accessed the restricted vault. He had just 10 minutes before the entire data mainframe would wipe clean. He couldn't reach Briggs, not without revealing himself, but he didn't need backup. He was backup. He pulled out a tiny transmitter, custom made. A single pulse would lock every exit from Hall's position, but it had to be timed exactly as Hall inserted the final key into the server. He moved like wind, quiet, swift, down an unused maintenance shaft, through a forgotten hallway, and finally to the vault door just as Hall arrived. From behind the shadows, Marcus whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." Hall froze. "You're supposed to be dead?" Marcus stepped into the light, eyes blazing. "Yeah, that's what they told you." And just like that, the hunter stepped out of the shadows. A siren wailed as the vault locked shut behind them. Marcus didn't flinch. He knew exactly how long they had. 7 minutes, maybe 8, if Hall hadn't already triggered the data wipe protocol. Inside this high-security chamber, two men stood face to face, one a traitor, the other a ghost reborn. Hall recovered first, masking his shock with arrogance. "You really think you can stop this?" he sneered. "You're not even supposed to exist anymore." Marcus circled him slowly, eyes scanning the room. Retinal scanner, biometric pad, pulse wave locks. No backup, no surveillance feed. Just two men, one mission. "I don't need to exist," Marcus replied, voice low. "I only need you to fail." Hall lunged. A knife flashed from his sleeve. Not protocol, not clean, desperate. Marcus anticipated the move, sidestepped, twisted Hall's wrist, and slammed his palm against the biometric pad on the wall. The system chirped. "Override accepted." "You were always sloppy," Marcus muttered. "Even back in Beirut." Hall spat blood from a cracked lip. "That ambush. You don't know the full story." "I know enough," Marcus said. "You sold us out. 4 dead. I buried their names in my mind, and I waited." Flashback. 5 years ago. In a jungle outpost in the Philippines, Marcus watched Hall's name flash on a black market sat link. He traced it. Guatemala, then Prague, then Ankara. The man moved like a shadow, but Marcus had become something even quieter. A phantom with purpose. He trained alone, lived off the grid. He embedded himself in encrypted networks, studied every algorithm the agency used, then rewrote it for himself. The world believed he was dead, but he had never stopped watching. Back in the vault, Hall made another move, a desperate scramble toward the console. Marcus pulled the flash grenade from his belt. No time for finesse. Click. Flash. Hall screamed, momentarily blinded. "You don't get to decide what truth survives," Marcus said, slotting his own encrypted drive into the system. "The files go public if I don't return in 1 hour. Your entire plan? Dead on arrival." Hall slumped to the floor, coughing. Marcus activated the Ghost Protocol, a self-initiated AI defense he designed years ago. Every agency server was pinged, purged of Hall's modifications, and reset to factory integrity. Silent, instant, final. 3 floors up, Colonel Briggs stared at a console in disbelief. What the hell just happened? Across the screen, one line appeared. Protocol reinitialized. Marcus Vale. The room went still. Briggs whispered, "He's alive." As the vault opened, Marcus dragged Hall out, hands bound. Technicians and agents froze. Many had seen him only in declassified images. Old missions, faded files, whispered stories. One agent stammered, "Sir, we thought—" Marcus handed over Hall, straightened his jacket, and simply said, "Clean this up. I've got tea to brew." The agency called it containment. Marcus called it a funeral without a body. 7 years earlier, a mission had gone sideways. An encrypted intel op in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan. What should have been a clean retrieval turned into an ambush. Marcus was the team lead. Hall was comms. 4 operatives died. And Marcus was officially listed as killed in action. But he didn't die. A shepherd found him days later. Broken ribs, punctured lung, frostbite creeping up both feet. The agency never came. Hall never called in medevac. When Marcus finally reached a secure line weeks later, the line had gone dead. His credentials revoked. Access denied. His name scrubbed. They hadn't just left him. They buried him. Now, debrief room 7, Colonel Briggs stood across the glass from Marcus, arms folded, lips pursed. "You really brewed tea in the break room for 3 months?" "Every day," Marcus said flatly. "Best way to listen." Briggs exhaled. "You're a ghost. Everyone thought you were dead." "Exactly why I got things done." Briggs sat. "We're facing a massive leak. Hall wasn't working alone. This thing runs deep. Senators, corporate interests, rogue cell leaders. We need you back. Officially." Marcus didn't blink. "You had your chance." Briggs tapped the table. "Marcus, they erased your record because Hall sold the mission out. We didn't know until it was too late." Marcus leaned in. "You chose not to know." Silence hung. For a long while, only the soft hum of the surveillance equipment filled the room. Then Marcus stood. "I don't want rank. I don't want recognition. I want access." Briggs nodded slowly. "Done. Later." Archive room. Marcus walked through rows of cold data racks, each containing fragments of forgotten missions. He inserted a private key into the mainframe. The screen lit up. "Welcome back, Operative Vale." Names, missions, photographs, files long buried in bureaucratic silence now flickered to life. And there it was. The face of a girl. Brown eyes, tactical gear. Codename Wren, his partner, presumed dead, except the file had been modified 2 weeks ago. Marcus zoomed in, a location tag, Beirut, flash cut. Intelligence Hub analysts noticed an unauthorized access. They flagged it. Alarms didn't go off. Why? Because Marcus had built the system they were still using. He was the code beneath their code. Basement. Night. Marcus returned to the janitor's closet, a cover he now wore with pride. Under the mop sink was a false panel. He pressed it. Inside, an old duffel bag, black ops suit, custom pistol, and a faded photograph of Wren. "You're still out there," he whispered. "I'm coming." He zipped the bag, stood up, slid his badge under the mop bucket, a farewell to the cover that had sheltered him for months, and walked out the back door into the night. Outside, the sky was dark. A storm gathered on the horizon. But Marcus Vale, once buried by his own agency, now strode back into the world they forgot, not as a soldier, but as the only man who would finish what they were too afraid to start. Beirut, 2 weeks later. The city buzzed with a strange tension, somewhere between a storm and silence. Marcus Vale moved through it like a man who'd walked these shadows before. He wasn't carrying a gun, he was the gun. A safe house in the Marmichael district, run down on the outside, steel and silence on the inside. Marcus had been trailing signal pings and ghost files for days. All breadcrumbs led here. At 0214, the door clicked open. Inside, one table, two chairs, one woman. Wren. Her hair shorter now, scars where laughter used to live. Her eyes locked, calculating, then softening. Marcus, she said, you were dead. He stepped forward. So were you. Flashback Kyrgyzstan 7 years ago. The truth unravels in her words. They had both been betrayed. Hall needed fall guys. They were the perfect scapegoats. She'd escaped separately. Hidden, reshaped her identity. But she'd been watching the whole time. Waiting. Now Marcus opened a tablet, showed her everything. Hall's offshore accounts, the network, the list of collaborators, government officials, agency brass, mercenaries. Wren stared. This is bigger than I thought. Marcus smiled grimly. No, it's exactly as big as I feared. They spent 2 days building the virus, not one to destroy systems, but to expose. A digital dead man switch. Once activated, every file would be broadcast to global news outlets, leaks, encrypted backups, live feeds. They built their empire in the dark, Wren said. Let's shine a spotlight. The final mission, inside a UN encrypted node. Disguised as maintenance crew, Marcus and Wren infiltrated the data relay station under the guise of cleaning staff. When the final terminal was breached, Marcus uploaded the payload. A timer flicked on 020 cuck. Sirens, gunshots above. Agents had tracked them. Marcus looked at Wren. You go, I finish this. She refused. Not again. They split. Wren through the sewers. Marcus stayed. The timer hit 0. All over the world, terminals lit up. Headlines dropped. Covert corruption. The Hall files leak. Names, operations, betrayals exposed. Later, newsrooms globally anonymous footage of a janitor leaving a side door. Bag slung over his shoulder. Badge on his chest, fire in his eyes. No name, no agency, but the world would come to know him, not as a spy, not as a myth, but as the janitor who cleaned up the dirtiest mess of all. Epilogue. A tea shop in Lisbon. Wren sits by the window, sunlight in her coffee. Marcus arrives, pulls the chair across from her. It still got the badge? She asks. He taps his chest. Retired it. Kept the mop, though. They laugh. The world turns. End of chapter 5. End of story. Onu çaycı sandılar. Sonra tüm operasyonu tek başına yönetti. And they thought he was just the janitor, until he ran the whole operation alone.